Hey guys, welcome back to Shop Life. Today we're going to be working on this 2004 Lexus ES330. What I'm going to be showing you guys is how to change your transmission fluid and filter. This is pretty much a universal process, but this particular car is a Lexus that has front wheel drive. So changing the automatic transmission filter and fluid on front wheel drive cars is pretty much the same. Basically the transmission's on one side, the engine's on the other. There's going to be a transmission oil or fluid pan, and inside the pan is going to be the filter. Some cars will have serviceable filters, some of them will not. You'll just have to check. You can call the dealer up, or you can just look online on parts stores and see if they show up any serviceable filters for your car. So what we're going to do first is we're going to drain all of the fluid out. This particular car will only have 4 quarts in it, or that's how much it should. If it has a little bit less, that means it's leaking. This car is not leaking. We're going to drain the fluid, then we're going to take off the whole pan, which is only held in with 10mm bolts. After that, we're going to take off the filter, which should also be held in with a few more 10mm bolts. And after that, we'll put the new one on, put the pan back on with a new gasket, and refill the fluid. So let's get started. So on this car in particular, you're going to need a 10mm hex socket in order to remove the drain bolt. And then you're going to need a 10mm normal socket to go ahead and take off the transmission, the pan itself. So I'm going to go ahead and drain it first. A few things: make sure that the car is on even ground, or if you have it jacked up, make sure all 4 sides are jacked up. And then just make sure that the car is at operating temperature. That way the transmission fluid can flow out freely. Alright, so here, this is the driver's side, and that's where the transmission is at, and this is the transmission drain pan, drain bolt. This is the 10mm hex socket right here. And then after we get that off, we're going to get off this whole pan with all these pins. Alright, so we got the drain bolt off. As you can see there, usually most drain bolts, they will have a little magnet on their plug that will catch any like metal particulates in the fluid. This one really is pretty much clean. This one also has a washer. Usually your filter kit should come with a washer. If it does not, and you have to reuse your old one, I would suggest make sure you flip it, and also try to see if you have like a little propane torch or something to heat up the washer. When you heat it, it'll expand. That way you can crush it again when you start tightening it. And honestly, I would suggest just get a new one if you can, but worst case scenario, if you can't, just go ahead and do that. Alright, so once it's done draining, as you can see, it's barely dripping now. What you're going to do is you're going to put the drain bolt back in. You don't have to replace the washer just yet. So just go ahead and put it back in. That way when you take the pan off, you won't be spilling it all over the floor. Alright, so now once that's back in, what we're going to do now is we're going to remove all of the bolts surrounding the transmission pan. There's going to be a few that are hidden by the subframe, and those you're going to have to use a wrench like this, and that way you can just get underneath it and just loosen it with that, and then you should be able to remove it with your fingers. I would suggest removing those first, because that way you don't have to worry about getting those off when more than half of the pan is hanging off. And then just leave one that's finger tight on each corner. That way the pan just won't fall off as soon as you get the last bolt off. Alright, so let me go and show you where all the bolts are. Alright, so there's those. And then there's some right there. And then these are the ones that are underneath the subframe that are going to be hard right here. And yeah, there should be a total of 18. Alright, so here's the filter right here. It's got 3 bolts, one right there, and one right there. So we gotta get all 3 of those bolts off, and then the filter will you just gotta pull it off just like the pan, and then we'll put the new one on. Alright, so what you want to do is just put a little bit of transmission fluid on the O-ring, and then what you're gonna do is just going to slide it back in just like how you popped it off. Alright, so once you have these 3 bolts back in, wipe off any dirt that you might have put on the filter, and just tighten the bolts down. Don't make them too tight because you might break the bolts. Alright, so once you have it tightened down, what you're going to do is just clean the surface where the pan goes back with the new gasket. Just clean that surface off. You could use that same towel, just clean it off. And then you're going to clean the same surface on the pan itself. And if you have any like dirt on the pan in the bottom, just go ahead and clean that up. And once that's done, put the new gasket on, and then you'll see me put it back up. Filter that I got came with the gasket and everything. There's a whole kit I got from Advanced Auto Parts. So basically this gasket, it's a rubber gasket, but you can see since they had folded it into the little box, it's kind of deformed. So it won't just literally, it just won't stay there when I'm trying to put the pan up. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the bolts back in some spots. That way it'll hold the gasket. Your filter and your gasket might be a little different in color or whatever, because mine was from Advanced, so it depends on where you get it from. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put that drain bolt with the new washer back in, and then we're going to refill the transmission. Like I said, this car takes 4 quarts, and to refill it, what we're going to do is there's a dipstick for the transmission that goes right here. On Lexus, it's indicated with like a little blue or teal mark. And the engine oil one is right there. So just take out the one from the transmission, go ahead and wipe it clean, and then you're gonna need a funnel or something that will fit in the hole for that dipstick. So what we'll do is once we put the drain bolt back in, we'll put the funnel right there and just pour in the quarts from the top. Because essentially it'll do the same thing as if you were gonna fill it from the fill plug on the transmission. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that now. The new washer, no for the 2004 ES330, and probably for some other Toyota Camrys and all that share the same engine and transmission, they do not have the washers in stock in any of the local parts stores. So you're gonna have to get it from the dealer. It's $1.37 over here. So I'm not sure, it might be a little different for you, but you shouldn't expect to pay more than $2 to $3. Like I said before, make sure you replace that washer because it is a crushed washer, and if you don't replace it, then it might start leaking. Or at least if you don't have a washer, just go ahead and try to heat it up and just make sure that it expands a little bit. That way you can re-crush it. And like you see, it fits like that, and then when you tighten it down, it'll crush and expand a little bit. So yeah, let's do it. All right, so make sure that you get the actual genuine transmission fluid for your car. This Lexus in specific, it requires the type T4, and I had actually, I've had a few instances where I've put in just like the valve line, the red one, that says it's qualified for this car or for other cars, but usually it won't shift as smooth as the OEM stuff does. So just make sure you just get the OEM stuff just to be on the safe side. So yeah, we're gonna put 4 quarts of this through the dipstick tube. That's 3. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm only gonna put half of the last quart, so the 4th one. I'm only gonna put half of it, then I'm gonna lower the car, let it run for a little bit, shift it through the gears a little bit, so put in reverse, neutral, and drive. Just do that slowly for 10-15 seconds. Let it heat up a little bit, check the level, and add as necessary. All right, so the car is warming up, as you can hear it. I just checked the dipstick and it was still low. Even when it's cold, it's low, so I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the 4th quart, and that should bring it back to where it needs to be. All right, so now that we've added the 4th quart, I'm gonna check the level again with the dipstick. And it's full. So yeah, you're gonna need about 4 quarts. You can probably get away with adding a little bit less, but might as well, if you have it, just add all 4. Don't overfill it either. So if you know that you didn't get all of the fluid out, then just add 3.5, check the level, and just keep adding necessarily. All right, so make sure you recycle your old oil or fluid, whatever came out, at your nearest auto parts store, or even Walmart takes it. Just make sure you recycle it at the proper location. Alright, so that's it for today, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Subscribe if you like my videos, and thanks for watching, guys.